Welcome into Grip Lock Foundation's weekly podcast. We are here in an unusual setting. We are at Konner's house right now, and you may be asking, why are we at Konner's house? Well, it's because they're doing really loud construction in our office. Well, not in our office, next door to our office.
Quite
today.
literally jackhammering holes in the cement next to our office.
It's pretty rough. It's like deafeningly loud, so we can't, and it's been happening all day, so we have to record here, but that's okay because look at this quaint little setting we're at. You know, we're in the dining room. It's great, and it's wonderful. So, nice little change of pace. Hunter is not here, but we do have his predictions to give you, and then we're gonna do a quick preview here of the Ledgestone Insurance Open, the biggest disc golf tournament in the world by total amount of participants, including the Amfield.
It's an exciting one for sure.
Yeah, Ledgestone's always a super big deal. It's definitely one that the players like winning. There's a big atmosphere around it. We're going to start with just kind of a course preview. I went through all of the courses this morning. There's going to be 3 different courses played by the pro field. The men will play Lake Eureka in rounds 1 and 4, Northwoods Black in rounds 2 and 3. Which first I actually mentioned, it's interesting that they like a lot of places go back forth with the courses when they have the 2-course layout, whereas they're choosing to go with the same course for 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. What is your opinion on that instead of just like going every other?
I think that, I would say that it probably could make it more interesting because playing it back to back could make it to where better rounds could be shot out there. That's all I have to say.
Well, I would say I'll get into it a little bit more when we go over the individual courses, but I don't think I mind it for this particular event because of the courses they're playing. But basically, yeah, MPO is going to play Eureka, the temp course there, rounds 1 and 4, Northwoods Black, round 2 and 3. FPO is playing Northwoods Black in a shorter layout than the men. It's like 2,000 feet shorter for rounds 1 and 4, and they're playing Sunset Hills for rounds 2 and 3. So just I'm going to kind of go over each course individually to give kind of the keys for each one because they're kind of unique keys to each course. You know, they're playing a lot. There's a lot of different courses to go over here. So starting with Eureka, this is the most scenic course. Northwoods Black is basically like prison. So Eureka is like, I understand why they want to open and close the event with Eureka because it's certainly prettier to look at. You're dealing with quite a bit of OB. It's a temp course, so you know they're going to have to kind of use OB to their advantage. There's a good bit of water involved. I would say this course, my keys I have are keep the disc in bounds. There's a lot of OB on this course. They like to bring the greens in pretty tight and create demanding approach shots to earn birdies. A lot of placement shots. So placement shots are going to be key at this course because there's a lot of par 4s and 5s. And I will also say that wind could make this course a lot harder. It's a way more exposed course than Northwoods. Northwoods is obviously super wooded, whereas Eureka is very exposed, and there is a lot of water, which means the wind can be whipping. And if it is, that's going to change things a lot. And the last thing I had for Eureka is you got to score on the par 3s. The par 3s, there's a lot of them that are very scoreable, short, not a ton of trouble on them. There are some harder ones like the water tower one, but the par 3s in general, like you're going to want to do some scoring there. FPO is not playing Eureka. I'll get into that in a second, but then going on to Northwoods for rounds 2 and 3, this course, and I just watched flyovers of all of the holes of all the courses this morning to like re-jog my memory. But Northwoods Black is truly a monster. And it's interesting because Brody just played it a few days ago, and I think he tweeted that it was like one of his top 3 wooded courses. And I was like, you know, how could you say that? Like that course just looks evil. But I watched it back again this morning, and I can understand why he says that because it is very fair. Mm-hmm. If you hit your line on that course, you are going to be fine every time. The kicks can be absolutely brutal, though, and if you don't get off the tee, you're in trouble. The one thing I will say about Northwoods, I'll be curious to see what you think about this. There's a lot of, like, disc golf holes that have, like, there's too many disc golf holes, I think, and there's, like, 2 types of holes that have this situation. But one is where you have to lay up in an open shot to the then wooded gap. And then the second type is when you're in the woods and it's like a very sharp turn. It basically creates, if you have a skinny fairway in the woods and a very sharp turn, like 90 degrees or more, it creates a landing zone that's like so minuscule that practically nobody actually lands in it. And you barely, like you'll have a hole, like Northwoods has a few where you've got this really cool shot that would be your approach shot onto the green, like down a tunnel or whatever. But the landing zone to actually have a run up and a normal throw in that situation is so tiny that like one shot out of every 12 is probably even going to land there, if that. So it just becomes like, it's like the hole actually doesn't end up getting played the way it was intended.
Yeah, that makes sense. You may basically just see a lot of scramble shots instead of shots actually down the tunnel.
Yeah, and it's because like I'm fine with having it tight, tight wooded holes, but when you make the turn so dramatic, it means that the angle is so tight that like there's a lot of holes at Northwoods you're going to see guys that don't get to the corner on like the par 4s or 5s, and they basically just have to throw waste shots to lay up around the corner. And that's just part of the course, but my keys for Northwoods in general are keep it in the middle. There is some OB on this course on some holes in some very inconvenient locations. Like, hole 1, you can kick OB very easily, and there's a few like greens that are kind of tight, but there's not nearly as much as there is at Eureka because it depends on the natural OB of the course. But just keeping it in the middle, getting off the tee and just landing shots in play is everything at Northwoods. Minimizing the damage is going to be another key at Northwoods. There is going to be so many times that players are hitting trees very early off the tee, and they're just going to have to get it in their head to, hey, maybe I just pitch out, sacrifice the stroke here, and not take a quadruple bogey, because like there are some ridiculous. There are stretches on that course where you're just playing these like 900-foot par 4s and 5s that are just, they're so difficult. And then the last thing I had mentioned was keep composure, just because it's one of those courses where you can't play a flawless round, really. You're going to take a number that you didn't like, and you're going to have a break happen that stinks at some point. So you're going to have to keep a level head. That's something that we saw come into play a lot last year. But, yeah, composure is going to be tough. One thing that's interesting, before we get into the final course, because the final course is Sunset Hills, and it's just for the FPO, but I find this event interesting because obviously there's a massive AM field that overlap onto Eureka and Northwoods. So they're playing other courses in the Peoria area. However, there are like MP40, I think, is playing on one of those courses. MA1 plays on those courses. And because there's so many different groups and divisions playing on these courses, it basically means that FPO is now not playing, and this has been the thing in the past too, they don't play Eureka. And Sunset Hills, it's fine. It's on a golf course, but it's pretty boring. And like Eureka is like the signature course of that event. And I think they've played Eureka in the past. But I think it's I've never been like super concerned with the AM side of the events, like shifting away from the pro side completely, because I understand like it's a business thing, like, and they need to run the tournaments that way a lot. But it's a very weird line when the FPO is being pushed off of the feature course of the tournament by AMs. Like, and that seems to be what's happening.
That does kind of seem weird.
Yeah, well, I say it seems to. It definitely is in some way, because if you only had MPO and FPO there and you had two courses, you certainly could make it work. So it is happening. The FPO is basically actually being forced off of Lake Eureka by the AM field. And I think I remember talking about this last year too, but I just find that a weird line, because Sunset Hills, like, it's a very basic course. It's not memorable at all. It plays like an easy golf course layout. The only thing to mention about it really is that you're going to have to score on it. If you look at the scores from last year in the FPO, the scores at Sunset were way lower than at Northwoods. They are playing an easier Northwoods layout that won't demoralize them, but it's still way harder. But, it just didn't really sit well with me. I was like, that's just weird that like the AMs are being prioritized.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like, because like Ledgestone obviously is such a big event. Like beside like the pro side of it is just like one little facet of the whole weekend. But yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't move the AMs around to compensate for the FPO. But looking into some storylines, so for the MPO, if we remember last year, and it actually took me till this morning when I looked at it to see, the last year's event was 2 winners.
That's right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Basically, this is I first looked on UDisc and I saw only 3 rounds from last year, and I was like, wait, they moved it to 4 rounds this year. But then I remembered that it was the third or the fourth round was canceled due to weather coming in. FPO was able to get their last round in, but MPO was not, and therefore Rick and Calvin were tied at that point and split the trophy, which was like the dumbest thing ever to me. I thought that was so stupid. Like I hated the idea that they both had a win for that. I remember that like overlapped into our talks about like player of the year and that thing, because we were like, I didn't want to count it as a full win, because like they didn't win.
Yeah,
you
didn't beat somebody.
Yeah, like you can't have 2 winners. So that's one thing that we don't really have a defending champion for the MPO. Another big story from the MPO last year was Paul came out really hot the first round at Eureka, and then Northwoods Black absolutely stole his lunch money. He went in there, blew up on the back 9 both days, and like the second day, I believe it was like the backups got really bad last year, like they always are at that course. Which that's another thing is like with Northwoods, I'm curious to watch this year, is like it is so heavily wooded in there. I don't remember from last year, but I can't imagine the cell reception is going to be very good.
Yeah,
to
true.
get a broadcast in there. And also the backups were so bad. Like there's like 45-minute backups on some of those longer wooded par 5s. And I remember Paul was like rushing to his disc, just like picking it up and throwing it towards the end of the round. Like he wasn't like it was like very uncharacteristic and crazy. And then he ended up like just blowing up those 2 rounds. So do you think he's going to turn it around this year or what?
I don't think so. I bet on him for my last time this season.
You're done betting on Paul?
This season.
The whole season? You're telling me when USDGC rolls around, he's the defending champ.
No, you're right.
It's a bold statement.
I feel hurt, okay?
It's so funny that like we last podcast we talked about like Paul and like how I think we were talking about the power rankings update. And I was like, yeah, Paul, no, he's washed up. Like we're moving him down the rankings, and like saying what we usually say whenever he doesn't play well. And like people were like really getting swayed the wrong way in the comments, like man, hearing these guys going after Paul like that's like kind of like hard to listen to. And I was like, first of all, like what are you like? It was mostly ironic what we say.
Yeah.
Second of all, like I don't know, like he kind of stinks. So
yeah, I mean it's not anybody coming after Paul. It's that he's supposed to be the best.
Yeah, he's not playing.
He's supposed to be the best, and he's not playing like the best. And
yeah,
whenever you put yourself in the spotlight, you're going to get scrutinized more. And he's putting himself in the spotlight for years now. So,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's such a tough event to predict. Looking at the FPO storylines, though, we do have a pretty big one. Kristin Tatar is returning.
That's big.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see. She played an event in Estonia before coming to the U.S. and felt good, but I'll be interested to see if there's any rust in her game or any cracks in her game where it's like, oh, you can tell she's still playing a little injured. I certainly hope not, because we've definitely missed having a full FPO field just in general.
And let's be honest, she's probably going to be in all of our top 3s.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't not. I mean, she was the best when she left. So, one other thing I did want to mention before we get into any kind of predictions is we are getting closer and closer to the USDGC, and there are still, like, the way the field has gotten deeper this year, it's gotten really hard to qualify now. Like, just getting into that event has been so difficult. And so I've got a list here of notable players not qualified for USDGC, just to kind of like get that on people's radar to be looking at. Andrew Marweed, breakout player last year. He'll actually be an interesting storyline for this event, because last year he won Idlewild, I believe, and then he had Ledgestone right after or pretty soon after, and then he came in like third at Ledgestone last year. He was just a few strokes back. So this was like part of his good stretch of golf. So I'll be curious to see if he can turn it around and play well because he's had a bad season. DGA has not been kind to him apparently. But Paul Ulibarri, not qualified. That I think for Paul Ulibarri, a guy like that, it's got to be like a huge shell shock when your whole entire career have been like you're just expected to be at the big events like USDGC, and then like now it's gotten to the point where like you might just not qualify.
He might not have the chance to ace hole 17 again.
It would like
I was there. I was standing behind the tee whenever he did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
It would just be so weird seeing a guy like him at like Monday qualifiers.
Yeah.
Like starting to see like bigger names. Ben Callaway, also not qualified. Casey White, not qualified. And Eric Oakley, not qualified. So the names that like are struggling to get into that event are starting to get more and more recognizable. I think it'd be interesting to see like, because like Champions Cup is starting now going to be an event that requires qualification. So I think it's going to be interesting to see like what kind of names are going to get left out of majors as we go on, because that's kind of the way things are going, and especially like once tour cards become more of a thing and you have to earn them to stay on the tour, like who's going to be the first? Who do you think is going to be like the first guy that's like, oh my gosh, they just don't have their tour card anymore, like they just got dropped out, like because like that is pretty much a career ender.
I mean, I almost, as much as I hate to say it, it could be Yuli.
It could be. That's what I was thinking.
Very much could be. And it will be a shock to everybody because of his name. But, I mean, if you look at his playing.
I will say, though, that may be dramatic, though, because I don't know like how many people they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in front of him. There's a lot of people who are worse than Paul Ulibarri.
Because if they give out like 150 tour spots, and then like Paul Ulibarri is, he's in the 50%.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they implement something like that. Like there will eventually be a name. You're like,
I feel like he'd be the best mixture of like, it would be shock.
Yeah,
but like it could possibly happen, but it'd be really shocking. I feel like he's the best mixture.
The pressure would just be like insane because like right now, like there's obviously like getting into events isn't like there's ratings caps on that, but like it's not super difficult yet. But like if it gets to the point where like getting into Pro Tour events is like super difficult, and that if you don't get in, like you can tour locally, but like you're not going to make enough money. So like like your sponsors will probably won't pay you very much. So like if you don't get in onto the tour, you're like your disc golf career is pretty much over. Like you're not going to be able to make money being a touring disc golfer. So like that's a dynamic that's kind of starting up. But let's get into some predictions for this event. So this one, is going to be kind of tough to predict, I think, mostly because Paul is a wild card because he blew up in Northwoods last year, but he's also won this event.
Yep.
B, you've got, for the FPO, you've got Kristin coming back. That's interesting. And then C, we didn't even have a winner last year. So, like, I mean, if you're Ricky and Calvin going to this event, you have the confidence of knowing you played well, but also, neither of them won. I also will say about this is going to be an interesting event because of how difficult Northwoods is. And Eureka is no cakewalk. There's a lot of OB there. The scores after 3 rounds last year that got the tie for the win were only 17 under. Which is not crazy high at all. I mean, that's an average of like 6 strokes, basically, 6 under par for 3 rounds, and that's not crazy at all. So this is going to be, I think this makes it a really hard event to predict because anybody
right now.
Anybody can just blow up.
Because I just changed. I had my decision going into this, and I just changed it.
I think if I went to Northwoods after watching it, like I would probably shoot like 20 over par. It looks insane. So we're going to go.
Not unrealistic at all.
We're going to start with the MPO. I've got Hunter's predictions here. He has Paul winning.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Well, what happened was he probably, one of 2 things happened. Either A, I just texted him this morning and he just like quickly threw out 3 names that were like good at disc golf. Or B, he's thinking we won't pick Paul to win and he kind of has an opportunity to maybe like gain points. Because like when he has such a big lead, like he can make gambles like that and just be like, hey, I'll just see if I gain points. But he's got Paul winning, Calvin in second, and Rick in third.
Okay. Interesting
picking Paul to win. Who do you have?
He didn't put Dickerson in there.
No, he did not put Dickerson in there.
I feel like Hunter is such a big Dickerson fan. I'm surprised.
I think he's sleeping on Dickerson a little bit because Dickerson that last week had like a not great last round.
Yeah.
But he was fine the rest of the event. So
I'm going to switch it up between what I was going to do. I don't have Paul in there. I want to very badly, and hearing Hunter put it in there makes me want to do it more. Because what's going to happen is we're going to get embarrassed because he's going to win this weekend. But I'm going to say third, I'm going Calvin. Second, Ricky. First, Dickerson. I think Dickerson can hold it together.
Okay.
I think he can score when he needs to score, and I think he can hold it together when other people fall apart.
I mean,
I think it's possible for him to, at least.
Yeah, I mean, of all the guys in the woods to like
that's
trust,
exactly what I'm thinking.
I mean, that event is going to be probably won and lost at Northwood, so it's not ridiculous to think that, Dickerson is like the safe bet to go with.
Is your right eye bothering you like crazy right now?
No.
You've got a massive hair coming out of it.
I don't even feel it.
I'm gonna grab it for you.
Okay.
I didn't want to just grab it without saying anything because it would
touching my eye.
It would just look so funny.
Was it
on
touching
camera.
my eye?
It was touching your eye. It was like in your eye.
Didn't even feel it. Well, you got it really easily. Saved my life. Okay. Well, on that note, my MPO picks. I have Calvin in third, Ricky in second, Chris in first. Is that what you had?
You said Calvin in third,
Yeah.
Ricky in second.
Is that what you had? Gosh dang it. You changed yours. You were going to take
I didn't
Gannon.
see yours. Just to be clear, I didn't see yours.
Why didn't you take Gannon? I heard you say that earlier, and I was like, oh, good.
I said I was going to take Gannon for third, but then I was like, but Calvin. So.
All right, well, you're giving your FPO picks first.
I will give my FPO picks first. I'm going.
I need to gain some points. I would update you on the exact points totals, but I don't have them in front of me right now. And also, here's how it works. Hunter, way up here, a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Konner, way further down. And then me, like a lot a bit further down, realistically, from him. It's not really close right now.
Every time you say FPO, my mind just goes, Paige, Kristin, Cat.
Yeah, Kristin is back. That's
but
an interesting one.
My problem is that I don't want to pick Paige to win anymore.
She does win a lot, though.
She has. Paige, Kristin, Cat. That's my choice.
Paige, Kristin, Cat.
From first to third, Paige, Kristin, Cat.
Okay. Hunter has Kristin, Cat, Paige. Interesting picking Cat in second. She has not been that solid lately. I threw Cat out of my top three.
Wow.
I've got Kristin, Val, Paige.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dang it! I would have definitely put Val in there. I think I would have taken Cat out and put Val there.
She's kind of become like a more consistent player now, so that's kind
I
of.
would have gone Paige, Kristin, Val. I think
kind of where I'm going.
But I'll leave mine.
All right, dark horse picks. Who you got?
Ben Calloway.
Ben Calloway. I didn't really work out for Hunter last week.
Well, he's out for now that I said him though. He's
Hunter has got Luke Sampson as a dark horse pick. Not sure on his reasoning behind that, but Luke Sampson. Actually, I've had him.
Do you
win
mean
for
Luke
me.
Sampson or Luke Humphreys?
Luke Sampson.
Okay.
That is what he texted me.
That's a little inside joke.
Yeah. And then I have Casey White. Casey White actually came in 18th last year at this event. So I don't know. I've got kind of high hopes for him. But
yeah, I mean, I wanted to choose him, but you had already chosen him.
Yeah.
Casey White is a sneaky pick. He does really well sometimes.
I didn't really think about it until now, but the fact that he hasn't qualified for USDGC yet.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's going to be like a sneaky way to pick dark horse picks for the rest of the year is pick people that haven't qualified for USDGC because that they're going to have extra motivation to play well.
Yeah.
And they're typically players who are already outside the top 50 in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll work.
Except for sometimes if you're outside the top 50, maybe it's because your mental game isn't as strong as the top 50.
So maybe it's going to have the adverse effect.
The pressure won't
You know what's
help.
funny is I know my mental game must be really weak because the second I said what I just said, I was thinking, well, if it was me, I would actually play worse.
That's what I was thinking too. That's why I said that.
I wouldn't qualify for the USGC. But I don't know. I mean, these guys are professionals.
Yeah.
It'll probably work.
They're professionals. They should do well.
Yeah. I mean, in any case, kind of a shorter preview today. Wasn't a ton to go over. Obviously, we don't have our third podcaster either. So Hunter, he
the
just
best
goes
of the three.
Yeah, he's our fearless leader. He just goes on and on and on.
Gosh, we miss him.
But yeah, we sure do. But this event is going to be a must watch. You're going to want to check it out. check it out
Ledgestone,
live.
one of the most fun events.
If you haven't watched Ledgestone before, here's what I will say. Like, you're going to see a few unique things. You're going to see Eureka is a temp course that is super fun. There's some really cool signature holes, some awesome water carries, some really cool really cool uses of the environment. And Northwoods, if you've never seen it, you're going to watch disc golfers who are usually not human be very human, because you're going to watch them hit first available trees, be chucking scramble shots right in front of them and having them go nowhere. Like, Northwoods is the real deal.
Oh, you know who would have been a good pick? That honorable mention?
Yeah.
James Conrad.
Yeah. Yeah.
He could throw them putters through those woods and
honestly,
then keep the distance up for...
Yeah, from what I was watching this morning, too, I don't remember seeing too many forehands either. Mm-hmm. So that kind of helps him.
I remember watching him do decently well in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah,
at Ledgestone
James
before.
Conrad would not be a bad pick. I will say the other thing is, somebody let me know in the comments if like this whole FPO Sunset Hills thing is like actually whack, or if I'm misreading something, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, and therefore hashtag free the FPO, save the FPO,
stand up for the FPO,
stand up for the FPO, give the FPO Eureka Hills.
Hashtag
I wonder.
FPO.
Part of me wonders if it's just
better than
Eureka,
amateur.
Like, Eureka is a temp course. It's like, I understand that, but like that means they could also just add temp shorter layouts if they wanted to.
For sure.
I can't be overthinking this. Like,
that course is fun to watch.
Sunset Hills, man, good. Probably a good golf course, not a great disc golf course. That was my assessment of that. But anyways, other than that, that's gonna be it for the preview this week. Make sure to check out Ledgestone. Make sure to watch live disc golf and pay attention on social media and in our Discord. We're probably going to be chirping about it. We'll actually have a winner for MPO hopefully this year. Hopefully the weather allows it, and we'll actually have a real winner. But beyond that,
and stay tuned for Monday's episode of Grip Locked, where we are going to get to break down what's happening with Nico right now.
Yeah, Monday's episode of Grip Lock. You're going to not want to miss that.
Very tempting to talk about right now, but we will save it for Monday.
I think Hunter will be calling in next, so if you've been missing Hunter dearly like we have, I believe he's going to call in remotely. He's taking care of his baby right now, and something like that, you know. And yeah, Monday we're going to get into the Nico suspension and the aftermath that caused an absolute tectonic plate shift in the in other words, an earthquake in the disc golf community. So we're gonna
Twitter is going crazy.
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
gonna really dive into that, so you're not gonna miss that. And then also make sure to check out the other podcasts we have going on the rest of this week. We have In the Bag coming out on Friday, Trevor Staub's show coming out Thursday, and that's actually it. Also, one last thing to mention. We are planning on doing a watch party for Worlds this year.
Yeah.
So get hype about that.
The one last year.
Do you remember last year's? If you haven't, you can still go back and watch it.
Pretty sick.
It was pretty incredible, so don't want to miss that. All right.
Rip that drum kit. I missed that drum kit.
That's going to be it. That's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed the preview. We'll see you next time.